The signal repeated again and again through empty space. "Do not come here. We failed her." The message was broken. The voice sounded tired, almost afraid. Then the transmission ended in silence. 3 days earlier, Daniel Ross did not know this planet even existed. He was a long-range explorer, sent to scan unknown systems for future human travel routes. His mission was simple: land, collect data, and leave. The planet below looked quiet from orbit. Large oceans, green land, and no signs of active cities. But something felt wrong. There were structures on the surface. Massive ones, too large to be natural. Yet no movement appeared on his scanners. Before Daniel could investigate further, his ship lost power. Warning lights filled the cockpit. Navigation failed. The engine shut down without explanation. Daniel tried emergency restart procedures, but nothing responded. The ship began to fall. Clouds rushed past the windows as the planet pulled him down. The landing was rough. Metal screamed as the ship crashed across a rocky plain before finally stopping. For several minutes, Daniel could not move. When the smoke cleared, he forced himself outside. The air was warm and breathable. The sky glowed with soft blue light. In the distance, he could see enormous shapes rising from the ground like broken towers. Cities, but abandoned. Daniel walked carefully through the silent landscape. Roads wide enough for giant vehicles stretched between empty structures. Doors taller than buildings stood open. Dust covered everything. It looked like a civilization that had simply stopped. No Boethius, no signs of battle, just silence. As night approached, Daniel searched for shelter. His scanner picked up a weak energy signal coming from beyond a line of hills. It was the first sign of life he had seen. He followed it. The ground slowly sloped downward into a wide valley. Strange machines stood half buried in the earth, their lights flickering weakly. The energy signal grew stronger with every step. Then Daniel saw her. At first, his mind refused to understand what he was looking at. A giant woman lay in the center of the valley, her body resting between massive support structures. She was larger than anything he had ever seen, taller than buildings, her form partially covered by damaged machines and cables. For a moment, Daniel thought she was a statue. Then her chest moved slowly. She was breathing. Daniel stepped closer, careful and unsure. Her face looked peaceful but pale, as if she had been asleep for a very long time. Large metal frames surrounded her arms and legs, holding them in place. Lights blinked weakly along the machines connected to her body. Medical systems, he realized, or something like them. Suddenly, one of the machines sparked. A low alarm echoed through the valley. The lights dimmed further. The giant woman's eyes opened. Daniel froze. Her eyes moved slowly until they found him standing below. Fear filled her expression. Not anger, not aggression. Fear, as if she expected him to hurt her. Daniel slowly raised his hands, showing he meant no harm. His heart pounded loudly in his chest. He had no idea what she was or why she was here, but one thing was clear. She was alive. Her lips moved slightly, but no sound came out. The machines around her beeped faster, warning lights flashing red. Something was failing. Daniel looked around quickly, trying to understand the system. The equipment was old, badly damaged. Some parts had stopped working completely. If the machines shut down, she might die. Before he could move closer, shadows appeared along the edge of the valley. Large figures stepped out from behind the hills. More giants. They surrounded him silently, their faces filled with shock and suspicion. Some held tools that looked like weapons. Others stared at him like he was impossible. Daniel realized he had walked into something much bigger than a crash site. One of the giants stepped forward and looked at the woman lying in the machines. Her expression changed from fear to desperation. She said something loudly in a language Daniel could not understand. The others reacted immediately. Some rushed toward the failing machines. Others kept their eyes locked on Daniel. He understood their fear. A stranger had appeared at the exact moment their protector was dying. To them, this could not be coincidence. As the alarms grew louder and the giant woman's breathing became weaker, Daniel felt a terrible realization settle in his mind. He had not just found a survivor. He had found someone their entire world depended on, and whether they trusted him or not, her survival might now depend on him. Daniel did not resist when they surrounded him. The giant women moved carefully but quickly. Some rushed to the broken machines around the giant woman in the valley. Others stayed close to Daniel, watching every movement he made. Their eyes were not full of anger. They were full of fear. The alarm slowly faded, replaced by a low humming sound from machines. The giant woman's breathing became steady again but weak. She did not close her eyes. She kept looking at Daniel, as if trying to understand why he was there. One of the giants spoke loudly, giving orders. Daniel could not understand the words, but the meaning was clear. He was coming with them. They escorted him away from the valley toward the massive city he had seen earlier. Up close, the scale of everything felt overwhelming. Buildings reached into the sky. Doors were taller than towers. Roads were wide enough for machines bigger than ships. Yet the city felt tired. Lights flickered. Some structures were damaged. Many areas were empty. This was not a thriving civilization. It was one trying to survive. Daniel was taken inside a large hall made of smooth stone and metal. Several older, giant women waited there. Their faces were serious. Leaders, he guessed. They spoke among themselves while looking at him again and again. Some sounded angry. Others sounded desperate. Finally, one of them stepped forward and activated a small device. The machine translated slowly, its voice broken but understandable. "You arrived when she weakens," the device said. "Explain." Daniel raised his hands calmly. "My ship crashed. I didn't know anyone was here." The leaders exchanged looks. They did not fully trust him, but they listened. Through slow conversation, Daniel learned the truth. The giant woman in the valley was named Arya. She was not just a citizen. She was their protector. Long ago, their world was attacked by an unknown enemy. Arya fought to defend the planet using ancient systems connected directly to her body. She survived the war, but something damaged her nervous system. Since then, she could not move. The machines kept her alive, and those machines were failing. Without Arya, many planetary systems would shut down: climate control, defense networks, energy balance. Their entire species depended on her survival. Daniel felt the weight of the situation immediately. He was not just a stranger here. He had arrived at the worst possible moment. The leaders allowed him to stay, but under watch. Guards followed him everywhere. He was given food and a place to rest, but he was never alone. To them, he was both hope and risk. The next day, Daniel was taken back to the valley. Arya lay exactly where he had seen her before, surrounded by workers trying to repair old systems. Sparks flew from broken panels. The giants worked hard, but many looked unsure of what they were doing. The technology was advanced, but poorly understood. Daniel studied the machines from a distance. He noticed something strange. Repairs were being made the same way every time, following old instructions without question. No one seemed to ask if the instructions were still correct. As he watched, one system shut down briefly before restarting. Arya's breathing changed again, becoming shallow. Daniel stepped forward without thinking. "That part is overheating," he said, pointing. The workers hesitated. One of the guards moved closer, ready to stop him, but the leader allowed him to continue. Daniel explained using gestures and simple drawings in the dirt. The system was not broken in one place. It was slowly failing everywhere because small problems had never been fixed properly. The giants listened carefully. For the first time, they looked at him not as an outsider, but as someone who saw something they had missed. Hours later, after small adjustments, the machine stabilized. The alarm stopped. Arya's breathing became stronger. The valley fell silent. Then her eyes moved again, searching. They stopped when they found Daniel. A weak sound came from the translator near her head. The voice was slow and strained. "You are small." Daniel blinked in surprise. "But you are not afraid." He swallowed, unsure how to answer. "I guess I didn't have time to be." Arya's eyes softened slightly, as if amused. Around them, the giants watched in silence. Something important had just changed. Their protector had spoken to the outsider, and she did not sound afraid of him. That night, whispers spread through the city. Some believed the human might save her. Others feared he might make things worse. And far above the planet, hidden beyond the clouds, a faint signal activated again. The same signal that once brought war to their world. Daniel did not know it yet. But helping Arya would not only save one life. It would decide the future of an entire species. The city no longer felt silent. After Arya spoke to Daniel, everything changed. Workers moved faster. Leaders visited the valley more often. Guards watched Daniel closely, but now their expressions were different. Not only suspicion, expectation. If the small outsider could help once, maybe he could help again. Daniel spent more time near the machines that kept Arya alive. The system was enormous, older than anything he had seen before. Cables ran deep into the ground. Energy flowed through large towers around the valley. But something was wrong. The machines were not healing her. They were keeping her from getting worse, while slowly making her weaker. Daniel noticed small delays in power flow. Cooling systems failed for seconds before restarting. Emergency backups activated too often. It looked like the system was constantly fighting itself. He explained this to the workers using drawings and simple words. Some listened carefully. Others shook their heads. These systems saved her, one leader said through the translator. We do not change what keeps her alive. Daniel understood their fear. Arya was everything to them. Taking risks felt impossible, but doing nothing was also a risk. One evening, while most workers had left, Daniel stood beside Arya's resting place. The valley was quiet. Only the soft sound of machines filled the air. Her eyes opened slowly. You worry, she said through the translator. Daniel nodded. The system is wrong. It's trying to do too much. It never stops. Arya was silent for a moment. After war, she said slowly, we were afraid to lose anything again. So we added more protection, more systems, more control. Daniel understood immediately. Too many systems meant too many failures. They had protected her so much that they were slowly harming her. If nothing changes, Daniel said quietly, you won't get better. Arya's eyes closed briefly, as if she already knew. The next day, Daniel presented his idea to the council. The main system needed to be shut down completely for a short time. A full restart. Without it, the damage would continue. The reaction was immediate. No, one leader said firmly. If she stops breathing, she dies. Others agreed. The risk was too great. They had kept Arya alive for years by avoiding change. Trusting an outsider now felt dangerous. The council refused. Daniel left frustrated, knowing time was running out. Arya's readings were getting weaker every day. That night, Lyra, one of the younger engineers, approached him quietly. She had been watching his work. You are right, she said softly. Machines fight each other. Daniel looked surprised. Then help me convince them. She shook her head. They are afraid. Later, Daniel returned to the valley alone. The guards allowed it now, believing he meant no harm. Arya was awake. I heard, she said. Daniel hesitated. They won't allow it. A long silence followed. Then Arya spoke again, her voice weaker than before. If nothing changes, my people fade slowly. I feel it. Daniel looked up at her massive face. For the first time, he saw not a protector, but someone tired of being helpless. You want me to try? He asked quietly. Her answer came without hesitation. Yes. The next morning, while the council was still arguing, Daniel made his decision. With Lyra's help, he reached the central control system. His hands shook as he prepared the shutdown sequence. Every warning light turned red. If he was wrong, Arya would die. If he did nothing, she would die anyway. He took a deep breath and pressed the command. The machines powered down. One by one, the lights around the valley went dark. The humming sound disappeared. Silence filled the air. Arya's breathing slowed, then stopped. Alarms exploded across the city. Giants rushed toward the valley in panic. Guards grabbed Daniel, shouting in anger and fear. Workers tried desperately to restart the system. Life signs dropped to zero. Daniel's heart pounded in his chest, but he did not move. This is part of it, he said, though no one wanted to hear him. Seconds felt like hours. The entire valley stood frozen, watching their protector lie completely still. And above the clouds, far beyond their sight, multiple signals awakened, responding to the sudden loss of energy from the planet below. The enemy had noticed, and as the machines remained silent, everyone believed the same terrible thing. The human had just killed the one person keeping their species alive. The valley filled with noise. Alarms screamed from every tower. Red lights flashed across the machines surrounding Arya's body. Giants rushed in from every direction, their footsteps shaking the ground. Daniel was pulled back by guards before he could move closer. Angry voices filled the air. Some shouted at him. Others demanded the systems be restarted immediately. But nothing happened. Arya did not move. Her chest remained still. The machines showed no life signs. The silence around her felt heavier than the alarms. Many believed it was over. The council arrived quickly. Their faces were filled with shock and grief. One of the leaders turned toward Daniel, her expression cold. "You ended her," the translator said. Daniel shook his head. His voice stayed calm, even though his heart was racing. No, the system needed to stop. It was killing her slowly. No one wanted to listen. To them, the truth was simple. Before the human arrived, Arya was alive. Now she was not. The guards held them tighter as workers tried to force power back into the system. Sparks flew. Panels opened. Emergency energy flowed into the machines. Still nothing changed. Minutes passed. The valley slowly grew quiet. Some giants lowered their heads. Others stepped back, unable to watch anymore. For generations, Arya had protected them. Now she lay motionless because of a stranger's decision. Even Lyra looked unsure. Fear filled her eyes, but she did not look away from Daniel. "You said this would work," she whispered. Daniel swallowed hard. "It has to." Inside, doubt began to grow. What if he was wrong? What if human logic failed in a system built for something completely different? Then the ground trembled slightly. At first, no one noticed. A small light flickered on one of the inactive panels. Then another. The machines began restarting one by one. Not all at once, but slowly, in sequence. The system was rebooting. Energy flowed through the cables again, cleaner and more stable than before. The loud alarm stopped, replaced by a steady rhythm. A soft sound came from the central monitor. A heartbeat. Weak at first, then stronger. The entire valley froze. Arya's chest rose suddenly as air filled her lungs. A deep breath echoed through the valley. Her fingers twitched slightly against the massive support frame. Someone gasped. Another heartbeat followed. Stronger. The monitors showed stable readings for the first time in years. Energy flowed evenly through the system. Overloaded sections remained quiet. Daniel let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. "It worked," he said quietly. Slowly, Arya's eyes opened. They moved across the valley, confused at first, then focused. When her gaze found Daniel, something new appeared in her expression. Relief. The giants around them stood in stunned silence. Some stepped back in disbelief. Others fell to their knees. Their protector was alive, stronger than before. But there was no time to celebrate. A deep sound rolled across the sky. Everyone looked up. Dark shapes moved through the clouds above the valley. Massive ships descended slowly, blocking the sunlight. The same enemy from long ago had returned, drawn by the sudden energy change. Fear spread instantly through the crowd. Old defense towers activated, but many systems remained incomplete. The planet was still vulnerable. Arya tried to move again. This time, her arm lifted slightly from its resting place. The effort clearly caused pain, but she did not stop. Through the translator, her voice sounded clearer than before. "They have come back." Daniel looked toward the sky, realizing the truth. Saving Arya was only the first step. Now they had to survive what was coming next. The council turned toward Daniel again, but their expressions had changed. The anger was gone. In its place was something else. Trust. Because the human they blamed minutes ago was the reason their protector was breathing again. As the enemy ships lowered into attack position, Arya slowly pushed herself upward for the first time in years. And the entire world understood something important in that moment. Their guardian had returned. But this time, she would not stand alone. The sky burned with light as the enemy ships moved lower. Their shadows covered the valley, turning day into darkness. Fear spread through the city. Many of the giants remembered stories from the last war, stories of destruction and loss. They knew how powerful the enemy was. But this time, something was different. Arya was awake. She slowly pushed herself up, supported by the massive frames around her. The movement was slow and painful, but every step showed growing strength. Energy flowed smoothly through the systems connected to her body. The restart had worked. Daniel stood beside the control panels, watching readings stabilize. For the first time since arriving, the machines were not fighting themselves. They were working together. Outside, defense towers began to activate across the valley. Old systems that had been silent for years came back online one by one. The giants gathered below, watching Arya stand. Some cried openly. Others raised their hands in relief. Their protector had returned when they needed her most. But the enemy ships did not leave. A deep sound echoed from above as one of the ships moved forward. Lights gathered beneath it, preparing to fire. Panic spread through the crowd. Daniel quickly studied the defense system displays. The shields were active, but incomplete. The power flow was uneven. If the enemy attacked now, the system could fail again. He turned to Arya. "The defenses need balance," he said. "Too much power in one place." Arya nodded slowly. Even standing seemed difficult, but her voice was strong now. "Tell me what to do." Daniel guided her through the controls. She redirected energy through different towers while the giants on the ground followed instructions. Their strength allowed them to move heavy parts and repair damaged sections faster than any machines could. Human planning. Giant strength. Together, the system stabilized. When the enemy ship fired, a wall of light rose along the canyon edges. The attack struck the shield and scattered harmlessly across the sky. The valley remained untouched. For a moment, everything went silent. Then the remaining ships pulled back, their scanners unable to find a weakness. The defenses held stronger than before. After several long minutes, the ships turned away and disappeared back into space. The war ended before it could begin. Cheers erupted across the valley. The sound echoed between the canyon walls as fear finally faded. For the first time in generations, the giants were not hiding. They had defended themselves, and they had done it together. Later, as the sun set, the council gathered once more. This time, Daniel stood freely among them. "No guards, no suspicion." The eldest leader spoke through the translator. "You arrived when we were losing hope," she said. "We feared you because you were different. We blamed you when things went wrong." She paused, looking toward Arya, now standing without support. "But you refused to stop trying." Arya stepped forward slowly. Her massive shadow covered the ground beside Daniel, but her voice was gentle. "You saved more than my life," she said. "You reminded us how to change." The council made their decision. Daniel was no longer a visitor or a risk. He was given a place among them, not as a ruler or hero, but as a teacher and ally. Someone who helped them remember lost knowledge and build a future without fear. That night, Daniel stood at the edge of the valley, looking up at the stars. His damaged ship could still be repaired someday. He could leave if he wanted. Arya stood beside him, her presence calm now. "You're free to go," she said. Daniel smiled slightly. "I know." He looked back at the city, alive with light and movement. A world that almost disappeared was now beginning again. Sometimes strength was not about size or power. Sometimes it was about refusing to give up when everyone else already had. Days later, the emergency signal that once warned others away played again, but the message had changed. "We did not fail her," the voice said calmly. "We learned to stand together." And in the valley below, a human walked beside giants, no longer an outsider, but part of the reason their species survived.